Good evening, Eva. Welcome. On behalf of um, Vogue Mexico and Latin America, I'd like to thank
Hello.
Kiara and the Women's Forum for inviting me to meet Eva and ask you so many few questions as I have for you. But
Oh,
it's really an honor. So
I'm
I'm really
excited.
happy
Thank
to
you
be
for
here.
having me. I'm excited to be here. Hola, ¿cómo están todas las mujeres que están aquí? ¿Vamos a hacer en inglés o español, francés? ¿Qué? Bonjour tout le monde. C'est beaucoup de français ici, non? Non? Oui? Allô? J'ai oublié tout mon français. Je peux pas parler français maintenant. I can't speak articulately.
Well, your French is quite good.
My French was better than my Spanish.
Really?
Yes. Well, I'm married to a Mexican now, so now my
You
my
have to brush
Spanish
up
is
your
is much
Spanish.
better.
I think we have the questions in English, but
Okay.
whatever you want.
Whatever you like.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And do you want to say anything to welcome everybody? Or?
No, I'm excited to be here. This is probably my favorite topic is women, and I think there's so much work to be done throughout the world, and so I'm just happy that the Women's Forum really speaks to economic mobility for women, because that's really what it comes down to for women is how do we get ahead in life? How do we stay independent? How do we advance our careers? We raise our families. And so we have a lot of responsibility, and a lot of times that pulls us out of the workforce or pulls us out of opportunities to further our careers is because of child rearing or responsibilities at home. And so we have to support each other. And we have to normalize, I think, motherhood, and we have to normalize a lot of the things that women face when it comes to economic independence and economic mobility. And so I'm excited to always talk about these subjects and see how we can connect the dots and how we can help each other accomplish our collective goal, but also our individual goals.
Well, we have a few specific questions for you. So, on that note, what do you think prevents women from feeling confident, especially in this day and age of social media and so many factors around us that young women face and young girls face now
Right.
more than ever?
Well, this is where, there's a system, there's a systematic oppression for women that's centuries old. So we've constantly been told in life that we're not equal, and those opportunities are not for you, they're for men. Or especially if you're a person of color, if you're a woman of color, or Latina, a black person, any sort of minority, we have been taught that that opportunity is not for you, it's not for us. And so we have a lot of history to overcome because of that. And so it's up to us to teach young women that they have self-worth and they have self-value. And I think that's what builds self-confidence is letting women know you are worth so much more and you have so much amazing potential. And so, unfortunately, patriarchy is alive and well in the world. And, when you see a country like the United States that doesn't even have equal pay.
Right. It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
That it's 2019 and
Yeah.
you still hear of these situations exactly, 52%, of
Speaking to the
women are 52%, which is what we just heard, and yet there can't be equal pay. So it's just fascinating, and
Yeah.
and especially in smaller countries like Mexico, even that it's unheard of.
Yeah, and I think representation matters in government, in business, in society, in schools. We're the majority of the world's population. In the United States, we're 51% of the population, and we vote more, but yet we don't have a lot of women in government, in office. And so we need that pipeline of women because I feel like sometimes for the younger women, you can't be what you can't see. So if they don't see a congresswoman in their district, they don't know that that's available to them. They don't know that's an opportunity for them. And so I remember one time I I was speaking at the White House, and there was a beautiful picture of me at the podium, and it said, White House, and it was on my social media, and a lot of people commented, "Oh my God, you look beautiful. You could be a wonderful first lady."
Like, no, I could
And
be
I was like, "No, why would you think that?" Not that I don't want to be president, but but the fact that people thought that was complimentary. Do you know what I mean? Like, why wouldn't you tell a girl, "Oh my God, you look so presidential"? Do you know what I mean? And again, I don't want to be president, but it's just an unconscious bias that even women, like even my mom would have said that. And she's amazing. She wouldn't mean that. She just would say, "Oh, that's so pretty, mija." But I think, we have to be more conscious about what we teach our young girls about what they can be and what their potential is.
So why is it important for you to be part of the first women's forum happening in the Americas?
Well, soy mexicana de corazón. I mean, yo nací in Texas. Yo soy Texican.
Me too.
Are you Texican?
Yes.
Where are you from?
I grew up in El Paso.
Oh my
To
God.
Mexican parents.
I grew up in Corpus Christi.
Yeah, so we're border girl. Well, I'm a border girl.
Our ranch was on the border in Texas. We have a ranch in the border. Nací en Estados Unidos, pero soy mexicana de corazón. So para mí es muy importante hablar de estos temas, estas causas in these countries that really need to hear what is happening. The movement needs to be in the Americas. It needs to happen. There needs to be a revolution of female empowerment across Mexico, Central America, South America. And I think, some of the strongest women I know are Latinas.
Yes,
And
we're very vocal.
We're very vocal. We're very passionate. We're very educated. We're very independent. And so it just surprises me that the infrastructure of opportunity is not in these countries for women, because we're resilient. And so I love that we're here talking about it, because this helps build that infrastructure of dialogue and conversation about what do we need to do for women? How can we help, women seek opportunities?
Well, you're certainly an inspiration. You're a director, actress, mother, kind of de todo, no? De mundo. So it's great to listen to you and just that you inspire women to kind of get out there, and it can be a small job, but it can be, something that makes you feel empowered and important.
Yeah. Well, and I also think I was raised by strong women. I have there's 4 girls in my family, no boys. My mom she's one of like 9 children. 8 of them I have 8 aunts. It's like, so I was surrounded by amazing women, independent women, educated women. And so they always told me that. They were like, "No, you are worth more. You are going to change the world." And so I was fed wonderful positivity, and I don't think that happens a lot in households with girls.
My mom was exactly the same. She was a working mom. My father was a doctor. They moved to the US. My mom didn't speak English. She learned English when she arrived in Florida, and she was at home with us all the time, which was really an inspiration to me. But after college, she said, "Oh, no, you're going to go get a job, and you don't need anyone to support you." She's like, I raised you kids, but I want you to get an education, to graduate, and to do something that you love, and not ever have to depend on someone, which is something that I think women need to hear, young girls need to hear more.
Yeah. And I will say, you talked about social media earlier, and we didn't grow up with it.
No.
And so I think a lot of us didn't grow up with it. And it is hard to navigate the world that is constantly bombarding you with images that you feel may not be attainable, whether it's body image. There's this weird addictiveness that social media is creating that is not real, And so for young girls, I'm always wary about them comparing their life to somebody else on Instagram who they don't know, who lives in Switzerland. You know what I mean? Like the world's gotten so much smaller because of social media. And so we have to be careful how we also filter the messages of self-worth
Right.
and self-value, because social media can really beat that down.
And behind your beautiful dress, it was a career that you've been working on for so many years and that took dedication and hard work. And I think that that's a message that we have to keep
Yeah.
telling people, is that doesn't happen overnight. And
No.
as women, even, my dad was always saying, as an immigrant, he had to work double. And he's like, and you as an immigrant woman have to work triple.
Triple. Yeah. When I decided to become a director and a producer in Hollywood, it was exactly that. It was first that I was a woman, and there are not a lot of female directors in Hollywood. Well, there are female directors. They're not a lot hired.
Right.
And I had to, that was that. And then I was also a woman of color. And so I had to work
Even less.
doubly hard for the opportunity. I had to be twice as prepared. I had to be twice as good. I had to be twice as knowledgeable. And I'm okay with that, by the way. I was like, I will prove to you how good I am, and you have to. And so I embraced that challenge, but a lot of people aren't up for that challenge, and it isn't an even playing field. And that's what we have to fix.
On the red carpet of the Golden Globes 2018, you quoted Hamilton. "This is not a moment, it's a movement." You are really involved in matters related to women's empowerment. What message would you like to send to girls and women?
Well, that was in relation to Time's Up. And so because of the Me Too movement and everything that happened in Hollywood with this Harvey Weinstein, we wanted to know how to turn a sex scandal into change. How do we change our environment? But let me tell you the most beautiful thing that happened during that time, as we Hollywood stars, all these celebrities, all these actresses are coming forward with our stories about sexual harassment and assault. The farm workers, the female farm workers in the United States sent a letter to us saying, "We are with you. We understand you." They sent a letter to us and they said, "We are sisters in this fight. We may be working in the fields and you may be working on a set, but we're going through the same thing." And it was a moment of solidarity, and we decided to launch Time's Up, not for actresses, not for our industry. We wanted to say Time's Up on the imbalance of power, and Time's Up on gender inequity across all industries.
Right.
And we united with farm workers, restaurant workers, domestic workers, hotel workers. And so people think Time's Up sometimes is just a Hollywood issue. It's the work we've done. We have a lawsuit right now against McDonald's about women who have been harassed in working in McDonald's, and they can't get a promotion. They can't be head cashier. They can't get ahead. And these are, low-paying jobs, and these people need those jobs. And so they came to Time's Up and said, help, how can we do this? Time's Up just launched a lawsuit against the FBI.
Oh, wow.
Women who are, not getting the same opportunities in the FBI. And so to take on, this isn't about Hollywood. This is about real women everywhere who are facing unsafe workplaces, and we need to change that for them. And that's what that comment was about. We can't let this be just a moment. It has to be a movement.
How did you guys come together? I mean, I'm sure you were really inspired when you started hearing, the first couple of stories, but how did it become what it was? I mean, even from our perspective on the red carpet, for example.
Well, it started in living rooms. I mean, one actress called another actress and called me, and it was like 5 of us in a living room talking about it, and it turned into 10 people in a living room talking about it, into 100 women, and then it just grew and grew. And I think that's the big misconception about philanthropy and activism, is that, oh, I'm not rich, I'm not famous, what can I do? It starts with one person calling another person.
You can speak up.
Yeah. and let's do, you and I, let's do something, and then that you and I turns into this, and then this turns into global change. And so that's really what has to happen, is we all have to be empowered to create change, even if it's just for one person. That change will multiply and become a domino effect of greatness.
But it's amazing how you spoke about trickling into other industries, because everyone was like, oh, Hollywood. And then you're like, well, maybe you should look at your own industry and see what's been going on. I mean, later it happened in fashion with photographers and models, and led to
Music.
yeah, and led to actual changes. So that's important, and thank you for initiating this, because it was really inspiring for all women. And exactly like you're saying, you can sit and say, oh, I can't do anything, or you can call your girlfriend and speak up.
So true.
So in a way, we've had some huge progress in terms of awareness about this problem. What do you think is needed, not just to be aware, but more to prevent? To prevent like these sexual harassment, to prevent women from being, kept at certain levels.
Yeah.
Because Time's Up was more about the awareness, but I guess
Yeah.
in terms of prevention, like, are there things that programs or things
Well,
that...
I think one thing that I always focus on in regards to sustainable change is, there was like some statistics that came out saying, oh, things are getting better. We can't get comfortable that we think the momentum is, oh, okay, things are changing. Yeah, let's relax. It's like things are changing because we're angry. Things are changing because we want that change. We're passionate about it. We're doing things about it. And so we have to continue that momentum. It takes a lot of work and energy. And if you see what's happening in the United States with Alabama, Louisiana just came on board, Georgia. You're going, wait, what year are we in? Why are these gains of women's rights being rolled back? It's because sometimes there's fatigue in the movement. We're getting tired of like fighting all the time, but we can't get fatigued at what is happening, not only in my country, but in the world. We have to continue to fight. The other thing is walking the walk. And so as a woman, if you are in a position of leadership, if you are a manager in a job, even if you're not, it's your responsibility to mentor a young girl. It's your responsibility to help another girl, another woman. I always say some of the biggest obstacles women face in the world are other women.
Yes, we're our own worst enemies sometimes.
But that's not by our fault. It's society's been telling us there's only room for one. In this boardroom, we're going to have one woman and one Hispanic and one person of color. And once those people have that position, they try to protect it, because it took them so hard to get that one seat, instead of saying, no, why is there only one seat? No, there should be more seats. Let's get more seats for these women. And so that's women's jobs. It's our job to do that. I produce and direct and act in this show called Grand Hotel for ABC. And as the producer, I got to hire people, and we were hiring a cinematographer, and that's a traditionally male job. There are very few female cinematographers. And so the network sent me a list, and they said, here's Tom and Bob and Joe. And I said, aren't there female DPs? Aren't there female cinematographers? And they go, oh, we didn't even think of that.
Yeah, so you had to, it's not that.
And so they send me a list, and I said, I interviewed them all. And not only were they amazing, they were way more qualified and were a bigger match. And I hired a female cinematographer, right? But had I not been the leader of that situation, they would have hired Tom or John or Joe. And I was like, no. And then we had stunts, and we had to hire a stunt coordinator, and that's a traditionally male role. And I said, aren't there any female stunt coordinators in Hollywood? And they go, oh yeah, there must be. Yeah. And they send me a list, and I go, her, I'm hiring her. And so I'm in a position to be able to do that, but I'm conscious of it's at the forefront of my mind. It's how I filter my life. I want to hire female writers. I want to hire female producers, and men don't think that way sometimes. And so, if you are a woman in any amount of power, like even if it's you're the office manager and you have the opportunity to hire somebody, say I want to hire a woman. I want to give that opportunity to a woman.
Right.
So we can create that change with our own army.
I mean, oftentimes, I even had an editor in my office hiring, and there was a girl that had a baby, and she said, "Oh, but she has a child. I'm worried that she can't put in the hours." And I said, "Okay, that's wrong." But it's something that, imagine if a woman thinks it, then men think of it even more. And so it's something that we have to be really conscious of.
But it was good. That's another thing you can do is call it out. Nope, that's wrong. And not only to other women, to men in the room. Nope, no. Can't say that. Don't say that. Natalie Portman said this one time. Somebody said, "Oh, I don't want to work with that woman. She's crazy." And Natalie Portman said, "Well, what did you do to her?" You know what I mean? Like, women aren't crazy. That's just, and she was like, "No, I call bullshit and correct people in their unconscious bias of not really seeing gender equality in their life."
So another question that's kind of off script, but as a Latina woman, we both grew up in Texas, and I guess my parents came to the U.S. in the 70s. So at one point we lived in Memphis, and my sister and I were the only Latin girls in the whole school, Mexican. And how was that in Hollywood? I mean, in the magazine industry in New York, it was very different and very accepting, and there were kind of, New York is a mishmash. But in Hollywood, even though the majority, Latins are the second biggest majority in the U.S., and I think they're the ones that go to the movies the most behind Asian
we over-index.
How do you?
We're moviegoers.
How was that? How did you overcome the challenges?
Before Hollywood, I had challenges in Texas.
I mean, even in Texas and in El Paso, you were.
In Corpus. Yeah, I remember. In third grade, I was 10 years old, and I had to go to another school because I passed this test and I got to go to the special school. And I was like, I don't want to go to the special. I want to stay in my school. And it was an all-white school. I mean, it was all Anglo, no Latinos in this school. And I got on the bus, and every morning my mom would make me a bean taco, un taco de frijoles. And I get on the bus, and everybody has a Pop-Tart. You know what a Pop-Tart is? And I was like, with my bean taco, and I was like, "What's that?" And they were like, "What's that?" And somebody goes, "She's Mexican." And I was like, "What's that?" I didn't know what Mexican is because I'm American and I grew up in America. And it was the first time somebody called me Mexican. And then I remember coming to Mexico and y'all call me American. You know what I mean? Like, you're not Mexican. I'm like, "Oh, I know." And so I just remember going, wait, where do I fit in? Because I'm Mexican American. My heritage, my culture, the language, the food, the music, everything is my DNA, was Mexican. And so having to navigate for the first time, realizing that and going, "Oh, okay, I'm different." And I embraced it. I loved the being different. I don't like to be the same. But when I moved to Hollywood, it was, everybody thought it was Italian. They were like, "Eva Longoria." and I got Italian roles, and I was like, "Great, I'm Italian." If it got me the job, I took it. And then it wasn't until really Desperate Housewives where it was an amazing role to play Gabriel Solis because they were the richest family on the street, and they were Mexican Americans. And we had a white gardener, which was funny.
Like someone did that on purpose.
But I remember the creator of the show, Mark Cherry, they told him to change, "Oh, can you change that family to black?" And he said no, because he grew up on a street where the richest family was Mexican, were Latinos. And he was like, no, 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 because in his head, he knew this family. He knew this family. And he said, no, I won't change it. And he didn't. And thank God he didn't, because it changed my life. But it was fun to represent that on television, an affluent, educated, successful Latino family.
That's amazing, and a great story. So one last question. We know that you've partnered with L'Oreal for many years, and they probably have one of the best slogans out there, which is "Because I'm worth it." What does that mean to you now? How do you think it's evolved in 40 years? I mean, if you think about that,
Yeah.
40 years ago, that slogan was...
Yeah, in the 70s. Yeah, I grew up with that. So my mom used L'Oreal lipstick, and I remembered the commercials, because I'm worth it, because I'm worth it. So I remember the first time, and by the way, I grew up the ugly duckling. My family called me La Prieta Fea, because I swear, all my sisters are rubia, todas mis hermanas tiene piel, lighter skin than I had. I came out dark and black hair, and I was the only person in my family with black hair and dark skin. I thought my name was Fea. I was like, I'm Fea. So the first time I was on set with L'Oreal and I got to say, because I'm worth it, I cried. Because I was like, oh my gosh. And my sisters were still like, ugh, you're still Eva. But that saying, and the company, L'Oreal as a company has really evolved.
Founded by a woman?
Founded by a woman. And also, they've evolved that saying. Now it's because you're worth it. We don't say I'm worth it anymore. The slogan has changed because you're worth it. We're trying to tell women, identify your self-worth, understand that you have to value yourself. And it's not about makeup products. It's not about hair care and lipstick and shampoo. It's really about finding that self-worth and finding, how you can use that as a superpower. And they've been really great. They've already supported my charities and my activism. I was on Obama's re-election campaign, and I got very, I know, we miss him. And
so do we.
He's a great guy. But, and they were 100% behind me with that, and my activism for women. And so they are really a great global brand that represent a lot more than makeup and hair care. They really support a lot of causes, and really trying to look at how do we use our global influence as a brand to help change women's lives. And so that's a lot of times we've partnered on many things to see how we can do that.
One last question. Do you have any female mentors?
Oh, I have so many mentors, but not all female. I have great male mentors also, but I was like I said, I was lucky enough to have an amazing mom and sisters, and so I didn't really look far for somebody to guide me. My mom was always on top of me, and so. But in the industry, yeah, I mean, I had the first time I directed was the president of Lifetime said, you have to direct this. And I said, okay. And then I went home and I was like, why did I say yes? Because she saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself. And she was like, no, you're going to direct this. And I was like, okay, but what? What am I going to do? And sometimes you need that. You need somebody else to give you permission to be great. So I'm telling you all today, go and be great. Go and be great. I give you permission. We need somebody to say that. We need people to say that in our lives, Go and do what you want to do and reach your full potential.
Absolutely. And thanks to organizations like Women's Forum, more and more people are able to do that. And we're able to impact more women around the world.
I'm so grateful for this forum. I'm so grateful for what they do and how many people they reach. And, we have to understand women are not a special interest group. We're not to be treated as like, okay, there's this, there's that, there's women. No. We're here, and we have a lot to contribute to society, to our communities, to our families. And all we need is to even the playing field and make gender equality, or a reality so that we receive the same opportunities regardless if we were born boys or girls.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Eva.